Hello everyone and welcome back to The Art of the Mating. We're here with another season. It started in COVID with all of you where we learned about how do we go about breeding the best racecourse we possibly can, and we're back for another season. This season we're on a mission. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers and we got pretty close to last time, but we need your help to push us over the edge. So if you enjoyed our content, if you enjoyed this video, I'd love if you hit that subscribe button below. We today are discussing what to breed. Very simple question. What to breed your mare to in 2023, from the highest echelons of Wootton Bassett, Frankel, Dubawi, right down to the great value stallions like Coolsea, Cot-Eye Glory. We discussed the whole barrage of them with a great team of people: Joe Callan from Whitsbury Manor, Mark Byrne from Coolmore, and Patrick Diamond, once upon a time from the Irish National Stud, now with a different hat, the Castlebridge Consignment, one of the biggest sellers of horses around. I hope you enjoyed the whole show. Well, how do we put it together? We put it together for you, for horse racing fans ever. It's to grow the sport as much as we can and to grow interest in bloodstock. I think it's one of the most fascinating aspects of our industry, and I just want to bring that more to you and to teach everyone more about how you can find a little bit of value with your broodmare by just being a little bit clever, and hopefully tonight's panel help you do exactly that. If you'd like to buy a share in a horse with us, that's a great way to support what we do. If you just enter code ARTOFTHEMATING into our promo code at syndicates.racing, you can get €50 off your share in a horse. It's a really great way and a really much appreciated way to support our work. We don't have sponsors. We don't have any backing. What we have is you, me, and this microphone and camera right here in front of me. Let's hope you enjoy this discussion. It's Art of the Mating, it's back, and this is episode 1. What do I breed my mare to in 2023? Right, so here's all the guys who've joined us this evening. The discussion is, what should we breed our mares to in 2023? Joe, Paddy, Mark, you have one mare and you have only one choice of a stallion this year. Who's the best value of the whole lot, the whole sire list? Paddy, I might start with you. You frantically look down at your sheet of paper there to see what you think. What's your one standout piece of value in 2023?
I suppose when I saw the figures announced, one horse leapt out as great value. I know he's slightly higher, than your sort of commercial price, but I thought Saxon Warrior leapt out as a horse there that, was worth a real rattle at. I thought what he did last year was perfect for a horse that you expect to get good 2-year-olds, but will be better 3-year-olds, I imagine. And I thought he had a lot of maiden winners that looked like they could be nice horses as 3-year-olds. So he's a horse that I thought was really competitively priced for what he's done so far, but ultimately looks like he could do in the future. He's a good-looking horse. We sold a lot of stock by him over the last 2 years anyway, and you like them, but what they're doing at 2 should only be enhanced to what they do at 3. So for me, he looks great value as a horse that could be sort of double in price next year if it goes the right way and they improve as they should.
I see Mark Byrne purring in the corner of my screen here. Didn't get to say Saxon Warrior. Mark, that choice taken away from you, what jumps off the list this year as a bit of value?
Bit of value. I think in Coolmore, if you're breeding a mare this year, you'd be selling the foal next year. I'd call Magna Grecia. I think what I see from them, they're going to be very good 2-year-olds, and I think they could be even better 3-year-olds. So he'd be the one I think is great value. And I had a higher range. I think St. Mark's Basilica, for what he achieved as a racehorse in his pedigree, I think, when you break it down individually, it's a lot of money, obviously, in everyday terms, but I think he is great value in that area.
Okay, so we've had St. Mark's Basilica, Magna Grecia, 2 more of the puntier options, I would say, even though at a kind of, middle range level. We've had the Saxon Warrior sensation that I know people have been fighting over nominations there. A place where they've also been fighting over nominations is Whitsbury to get into Havana Grey. Is he your pick, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure, what he done last year was incredible. The 13 stakes horses, he's already off the board this year, the stakes horse in Japan. Extremely exciting horse. you know, one thing is their determination to win. You know, the pure grit that they have has really come through. Hugely exciting horse for this year. His numbers each year coming through. Look, at 18,500, he was value, and you know we know that because the phone hasn't stopped for him. You know, he put us in a hard position with the amount of applications he had. You know, him outside of Whitesbury, have to agree with Paddy with Saxon Warrior. You know, I thought he was very fairly priced this year for what he achieved last year also.
Now, not everyone listening in will have 35,000 to breed to Saxon Warrior. We have to be realistic. People, they kind of start maybe with a budget of 10 grand, 15 grand. At that budget level, does anyone want to jump in with a sire they think is good value?
Yeah, I think Class Like Glory.
Maybe. You're not all... Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Silence there, yeah. Yeah, I think Class Like Glory is quite good value in Ireland at €12,500. You know, he retired at the field at €6,000. He's had 15 stakes horses, has Group 1 winner, and he's still sitting on €12,500. You know, he's still some good things to come from in the camp he's in. And I think he's a horse that's probably floated under the radar a little bit due to his neighbour being Memas probably. But, you know, he was leading first season sire and prize money in 2021, you know, and he's kept kicking. He 35 winners in his first crop. I think at €12,500, he's pretty good value.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Mark, is there anything at the lower level that's catching people's attention at Coolmore?
Yeah, Arizona. Arizona's going to be very busy this year. He's a very good foal sale, so he's going to be very popular again this year. And obviously, no name ever is after going from strength to strength. Magna Grecia, as I said, is another one. Calix, 10 Sovereigns, they're the horses that have the bit of chat about that we'll probably start to hear even more and more rumours from the breeze up chat as we go along. So we have a few options at that level, make it for something for everyone. But I think definitely Arizona is the real value one.
Paddy, when you think maybe of that range, what jumps out for you?
I'm a big fan of Cody Bear. I think he's done extremely well so far. He's had good numbers, but not huge numbers, and I think that's going to come in the next couple of years. He's covered good books. He got a good book the year his first runners ran because people cottoned on to he started well, and it's kind of transcended through. I think a lot of people have used him last year. People were fighting over nominations last year, and this year's no different. He's very popular. I like what he's done. He's got winners, he's got precocious horses, but they've also trained on Go Bears Go, obviously 1 at 3, nice horse, Measure of Magic. Lots of horses that are speedy commercial horses that have kind of done it not only as 2-year-olds but done it as 3-year-olds as well. And he did it not only with his first crop, but also popped up with nice horses in his second crop. So I think he's done everything he should do so far to be a horse that is competitively priced, but also has the capacity to be a 25, 30 grand stallion in the future. So for me, he offers sort of a proven horse that has the scope to climb.
And when you think about that and you think about trying to unearth a bit of value, we've kind of had contrasting views, which is one, Mark's thesis that maybe, we're seeing maybe a nice 10 Sovereigns or nice Magna Gracias and maybe they're going to be, more elite stallions. Or you have a, maybe a more of a Cody Bear situation, which is this was a 6 grand sire that's now moved up to, the 15 grand level. Where do you think the sweet spot is for a breeder? Should a breeder take a punt on good looking stock or should it see a little bit of proof in the racecourse first? What's your approach on that, Joe?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. It's a hard one, isn't it? You probably take the punt early when you have your faith to see good looking stock. If you like a horse, you like your horse. As you said, those horses, when they start getting the performance on the race course, start climbing, don't they? In the fees, such as you went in Court Glory and so on. So I think it's about striking the balance, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree absolutely, and I suppose for a lot of people, they're going to be looking at the breeze up times. They're going to look at what people have said at the yearling sales, and they're going to take a punt on a first season sire. And it's a great list of first season sires this year. Blue Point 10 Sovereigns at the top of the market. Mark, maybe your prediction might be a bit predictable. What do you think is going to be number one here?
No,
it's maybe a bit of value for breeders.
Well, it's a funny thing when you look at the first season sire market. Like you've the likes of Too Darn Hot. Too Darn Hot, I was looking at there, I had actually printed out. He's 8-1 for the first season sires. Now I know it's all about individual winners, but he's probably given some of the horses half a stone or a stone in the market against them or ahead of them. So it's more fashionable than actual fact. And I think sometimes you can get the most value with those really proven horses. You can breed a winner. Trainers still love to buy them because they've trained some good horses by them. So there can be real value in that area where you can actually just use I'm going to keep using Coolmore Science, but you can use a Glen Eagles or in Australia. They can get you good horses time and time again, and you get you a Group 1 horse as well. So there's more value probably in that area. But look, I'm actually going to, for the fun of it, tip up Calix because he's over 100 horses to run from. He was probably one of the most precocious 2-year-olds on the list that I have in front of me here that I'm looking at. He was probably one of the highest rated 2-year-olds, bar 10 Sovereigns and Too Darn Hot on the list as well. And he was by Kingman, who is an unbelievable source of 2-year-old winners as well. I think he 32-year-old winners last year himself. So I'm going to tip up Calix at 20-1 on the Paddy Power market.
Okay, a bit of value there potentially for
All
Mark.
about the value, Jack.
Paddy, where's your money going? Or maybe even your mare?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think this year is. I mean, I've looked at you look at the sort of last few years of stallions, and this year I think we could all argue that there's sort of 10 horses, 12 horses that you all like, that you've got a case that could either be leading first season by winners or be the horse that comes out of the year as a horse that you go, he's the horse that we have to use the following year. What's different about this year is that they all seem to have the numbers. Like very few years, last year you look at it, Sioux Nation, Havana Grey were horses that had the numbers, they had the profile to be a good first season sire candidate and sort of duly delivered. But there's also this year there's so many horses that make sense. And I've heard cases for lots of them. I would probably slide with the likes of an Invincible Army, a horse that you know well, Jack. I big fan of his. He's got a nice profile, good looking horse. I like what I saw from the stock. And I think he sort of competitively priced in the market. I think he offers a bit of value. Yeomanstown do a great job of with their first season's horses. So just looking at the prices, it's a really competitive year. Trying to find a bit of value at a price. Maybe Invincible Arm makes sense, but I can make a case for 10 to 15 horses there that have a
I think
chance.
there's a lot of sleepers there. You think of Massar, it's going to be very interesting to see how he does. We talk about Invincible Army, and he's a horse very close to my heart, and I agree with you. Yeomanstown guys do a great job, but who beat Invincible Army in his 6-furlong maiden was Massar. Maybe we're underestimating how precocious those horses will be this year. But last year, we had a kind of a two-way battle at the top of the market. It was Sioux Nation and who was favoured and he had a great year, but he was pipped at the post by Havana Grey, the second favourite in the market, who of course stands with Joe at Witsbury Manor. Joe, where do you think, you don't have a dog in the race this year, but who do you fancy that could do very well?
Yeah, it's some year for season stars, isn't it? You can make a case for any of them throwing good horses. A lot of winners. A lot of them have numbers. They've been well supported. It looks to be a pretty proper year. I would side with Soldier's Call. I think he's a massive chance. Obviously, son of showcasing. He was a tough, hardy, consistent 2-year-old. He won his maiden in May, battled the whole way through to just go down and neck in the Labé in France. Running the Flying Childers along the way in Preston. He's a proper good, gutsy horse. Has great numbers coming from Joe Foley, obviously great operator. I'm sure they've plenty of weight behind him, as Clipper Logistics do, in good homes. I think he's a massive chance of being developed into a proper stallion.
Okay, so that's interesting. So we've had a kind of cross section, but you haven't picked my fancy, which I'm a bit alarmed by. Right? I really like. I like the look of 10 Sovereigns, but my pick would have to be Blue Point. I think they were monsters as yearlings. Maybe they're going to take a little bit more time than we expect, and that's going to hold them back. But God, he's a brilliant racehorse. Just incredible. Paddy, did you sell any nice ones, or has he been a horse that's caught your attention, or how would you think about Blue Point?
Massively. I mean, I think, like I say, we can make a case for loads of these. Blue Point and 10 Sovereigns probably make the best case with the numbers, but I like Blue Point. He's a fantastic horse, very good looking horse. We sold, I think, 5 or 6 during the sales, and kind of, although there might be different sizes or different things, like very similar shapes in big, strong hips, looked powerful, good attitudes. there's a lot to like them. They sold very well. Everyone wanted to buy one. I'm sure they're all in the right places. Charlie Appleby's going to have a team of them. So I think he's a hard horse to look past. He's the horse that, Chatter is great about, but Chatter at this time of year is great about nearly all of them. He's a horse that makes so much sense, and at the prices, he's just a little bit short in the sense that there's so many horses that have a case, and which might have a knock-on effect on the number of winners that these horses get. It might be a lower total of winners that these get because there's so many horses that
you might be able to win it with 20 something winners this year.
A horse, I think, a horse that tops this list this year will be an extremely good horse because he will have had to combat a lot of horses that have had the numbers of mares, which is a starting point, but they also sold well, went to the right homes. Most of the good trainers has, I'd imagine, 4 or 5, a good spread of these horses. And I think that, whoever comes out on top of this is probably a very good stallion.
And Phoenix of Spain, a horse you were intimately involved in the purchase of, Paddy. How do you think his stock will fare up this year?
Yeah, I think Phoenix of Spain is a horse who I'd love to be saying him on this list. I imagine what he'll do is he will surprise a lot of people in the sense that he, although a big horse, was an extremely good 2-year-old. I know he won a Guineas at 3, but he ran 2 to on hot, closest as a 2-year-old. He was only beaten a snot by Magna Grecia in the Racing Post Trophy. So he's got a fantastic chance to prove a few people wrong, and with his 2-year-olds, although they're big horses, they seem to be precocious enough from what people are saying. And I think he has the benefit, a bit like Massar, in the sense that they will surprise people with how precocious they are. And expectation versus plays a huge part in all of this. Blue Point is going to have a sensational year, and if he doesn't, people will crib him harder than anything else. Phoenix of Spain probably needs just to get double-figure winners, 1 or 2 nice horses, black-type horses, and suddenly he could be sort of at the top of people's wish list for 2024. Okay,
now we were talking about the first season sires with runners, but there's also another. It's always very confusing. There's also first season sires, right, which are sires who for the first time are having the covering mares, and there's a whole host of exciting stallions there. Of course, Blackbeard with Coolmore. How is he taking to proceedings, Mark?
Yeah, he's going well. He's going very well. He's very popular. He's a lovely horse. People come and see him. They expect kind of a different type of horse in the sense that he's a very athletic, strong. He's only just turned 3. No, he's going down exceptionally well, and especially for Nona and Ever, he's a very good walker. He was an expensive foal as well, so he's ticking all the boxes. And it was a real good crop of 2-year-olds last year, and he ended up being the only one to win 2 Group 1s. And interestingly, someone pointed out to me recently as well is that it's actually quite down on first season sires that retired this year.
Way down. Yeah. It's an exceptionally small crop, I would say.
Yeah, so a horse that as well, State of Rest, is going to be very popular as well. There's some very good first season sires in Ireland and the UK, and like what Paddy was saying there is so true about we talked about before. It's the expectations, and it's just with these stallions they have to just keep beating expectations, and like that people love Blackbeard, so they just want them now to have good foals, and then you have to get to the next stage of having good yearling sales, and then you have to get onto the early chat, and then you have to have 2-year-olds. So it's very hard for these stallions to make it. So I agree with Paddy that any horse that can make it from the crop of 2-year-old sires this year, that there will be an exceptional 2-year-old or sire as well.
When you think about those expectations, right, and trying to sell a whiz-bang 2-year-old, but also sell the dream of backing it up time and time again. Havana Gray, Joe, when you think about him, his success, the foundations of it was quick 2-year-olds. How do you feel the stock will progress this year, and what are your expectations, and what is success in 2023?
Yeah, look, I absolutely get what you're saying, but, they kept going. Throughout the season, he had a very impressive Newmarket maiden winner to back into the season over 7 furlongs. He had a stakes winner in Japan recently over 7 furlongs. That's heading towards a few good group targets over a mile. You're already starting to see these 7 furlong horses emerge. Obviously, he was a very fast horse himself, and he's by Havana Gold, Teofilio Galileo, there is some stamina there, and it's a very exciting year ahead for him. What is success? That is a very good question. Hopefully another year the same as last year. Another 13-6 horses would be ideal, wouldn't it? No, but the horses wants to keep going the way they're going. A few very strong flag bearers. I think that's going to be the most important part, and he's had the numbers every year coming through, which is the big thing for him. So hopefully another very strong crop of 2-year-olds coming through, the Soul Wells Evenings, of course, and keep it going that way, and the 3-year-olds keep progressing.
When you think a lot of people are going to be listening in, they're going to be hearing, I don't want them to feel intimidated by the list. A lot of people, the goal they want to do is just breed a winner, right? And that's, they want to get a score on the board for their mare. What is a stallion out there that's at a low level, that's affordable to nearly anyone, that you think can get you a winner? What would jump out for you, Paddy?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's actually a host of them. The horses that I think can breed you winners. I think one that jumps off the bat is Coolstein. I think he's a horse that's done extremely well from small numbers, and I think a bit like Cody Bear, he's a horse there that's at a small price has done extremely well, and has the upside to develop well past his current fee, but at sort of €4,000-5,000, he's a horse there that makes a lot of sense, has done a lot of the hard work, and now has the huge numbers to hopefully back it up. But at a small fee, there's a couple other horses as well. I think Dream Ahead in the UK is a horse that's done extremely well throughout sort of his stallion career, and now provides UK breeders a chance with a proven horse that's actually capable of getting you a really nice horse at the end of the day. He's had a slightly different stallion career in being in Ireland, in France, and the UK, but ultimately trainers like them. He's very good at producing you winners, and can produce you a good horse as well, which I suppose is everyone's big dream.
Absolutely, and almost rated equivalent, or was he joint?
I think he was joint with Franco.
About it now with Franco.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a bad accolade to achieve. Mark, when you think about that question, you think about just someone comes to you and says, "I want to breed a winner. That's my goal here." What do you invariably direct them towards?
Yeah, you go back to obviously proven. I remember last time we did this, I got slagged for saying using the steak and not the sizzle. And that's what you want with these older horses. Like, you go back to like a Holy Roman Emperor, Footsteps in the Sand. You know what you're going to get with them, or a Glen Eagles, Australia. Those type of horses, they get your winners. They can get you stakes horses as well. But it's look, as we all know, this industry has gone very fashionable. It's all about what's going to happen in 14 months' time when you cover your mare. Like it makes things kind of more difficult for the mare owner that tries to breed for the racetrack and try and go the road with their stock, because they have to try and survive as well in the short term. And if you've only the one mare, you need to kind of find that balance, and a horse that isn't €50,000 as well. So they're the type of horses I like. I like a horse that'll probably get you 7 furlongs to 10 furlongs. That type of horse opens up a wide variety of markets. You can go to international if the horse is good to be sold as a horse in training. So you have loads of different options as well. But that would be my kind of nap. Any of those kind of older proven horses can get you a miler plus. That's the type of horse I'd recommend to get your mare going.
Okay, makes sense. Joe, where would you be directing people?
Yeah, I think the lads have hit a lot of them there. I think over here in the UK, due diligence, even without the Whitby hat on, he obviously started off with a flurry with his first runners, did extremely well. Unfortunately, had the numbers to back it up the next couple of years. He's rolling around with his best crop of 2-year-olds, and I think he's a horse who will catch the light again this year. He's a solid stallion. He really is, and I think he'll show that again this year. In Ireland, I think Elzam. I think he always punches at his fee. At the fee he stands, he always punches above his weight as well. So yeah, I think they're good ones to get mares going, and produce winners, and we'll continue to do that for the next while.
I'm sure someone listening into this chat has endless money. Doesn't matter. I just want to send to the best of the best.
He's hosting it.
I was going to say that he's sitting here on the screen in front of me.
Is the best stallion in Ireland, and what is the best stallion in England today?
It's okay. It's what you're trying to achieve is a big thing. Like, there's different types of people, like owner breeders that want to breed for a derby. they're going to be using a different type of horse to a guy who maybe wants to breed a Royal Ascot 2-year-old. So if you're looking at the Derby horse, I suppose you're going to be looking at the likes of, in England, that'd be Frankel, Dubawi. Well, Frankel more so than Dubawi. For the Derby distance, I know Dubawi is obviously an unbelievable stallion, but I'd say Frankel is probably more the middle distance type. Here in Ireland, I suppose we've got some unbelievable stallions. There's obviously a big change in the guard as well. Like we've lost Galileo, and Invincible Spirit's gone quite old as well. So they kind of changed around, but we still have Sea the Stars, who is an exceptional stallion. Lope de Vega. Here we have No Day Never, Wootton Bassett. So there's so many different horses that tick a box. That if you're trying to achieve something, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't think we'll see a horse that would have been as dominant as Galileo has been. But there's a whole different variety of them. I do love Frankel. I think he's the bee's knees. He could get you a Guineas horse, and he could get you a Derby winner as well, or an Oaks winner. So I just think he is an exceptional stallion.
Is there a horse, do you think, that's going to break into that upper echelon, Patrick? What do you think is going to get to that top table?
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of Night of Thunder. I think he's done extremely well.
What did Castlebridge tell him for? 32 grand?
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't mind I don't know why you didn't text me. It would have been 35.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been one for you, I know. Your sort of wheelhouse, that. You were asleep at the wheel there.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, he's done extremely well. From a horse that, like you say, was sold in a book one sale for that price, and all that goes with it. It was a fantastic racehorse. It's gone to stud, and sort of people, he went from 25 is up to 100,000. I'm sure that he could be more. The amount of people that will be making inquiries to Darley, he's done extremely well. And I imagine that he's going to move on into that next level. It's make or break for him, but I think he's going to go and do it. The other horse that you questioned, like Wootton Bassett, another horse there that's done extremely well from, a limited chance at stud. I think he covered small numbers in his first few crops and has done it the hard way. And now I imagine, Mark will tell you better than I am, but I imagine he's got a huge book of quality coming through. Aidan will end up with a huge amount of them. And, from what he's done, I think that he's going to kick on those horses that do it the hard way, that build up. They've got huge potential. So Night of Thunder or Wootton Bassett would be up there. And I think that Lope de Vega's got a chance of moving in there. I think a bit like Mark said that, it depends what you're trying to achieve, from breeding. But, Lope de Vega's a horse there that consistently produces really good looking animals for the sales ring as well, which is another part of it. When you're using these stallions at high fees, they have to produce you good looking animals. And Lope de Vega's a horse that's done that, as well as produce top class horses. And he, again, surely has got his best runners to come for him.
Well, I know Mark needs to drop off.
I haven't got a text message, so keep going.
Hasn't? Well, I thought he'd have to drop off because he'd have so many Wootton Bassett nominations to sell on the strength of Paddy's words there. Joe, can I ask a question? When you get a horse that hits the kind of, commercial supersonic level of a Havana Grey, what's the methodology about, picking out the mares? How do you think about satisfying all those breeders? Because you can't, right? So where do you start?
Yeah, it was very hard this year, no question about it. Where do you start is a good question. I think it actually started before I started joining Fitzbury, so I think I had, the ball got rolling good and early. But
yeah, you were giving out the bad news, not the good news.
No, the postman was quiet delivering Christmas cards to me this year. I can promise you that. Don't worry. No, believe it or not, obviously, look, 99.9% of people understand. You do your best for everyone. When you look through, we tried not to do basically a running list of applications. We tried to deal with people there and then, really, as it can. Not leave people hanging around, because that wouldn't be fair. Just people who have been supporting Fitzbury for a very, very, very long time and supporting Havana Grey since the start. And he was kept at the 18,500, hopefully accessible to those people still. And obviously they, were simple ones. There's people who were supporting, the other stallions and so on. To be honest, single Havana Greys weren't really a thing. When you take the people who supported Whitby so heavily over the years, don't get me wrong, Whitby are covering 500 mares a year. They're selling 100 horses a year in the sales, which is a lot of very good clients. But it's still trying to narrow that down, and we had perimeters in place, really, and we stuck to them. We only want to cover between, 150-ish with him. We've stuck to that number, which has been tricky. But we've got there. And he's a very, very exciting book, and we're delighted.
Yeah, it's a real challenge, and a challenge Mark and the team at Coolmore have to face quite frequently when one of their elite stallion prospects retire. When St. Mark's Basilica last year, when he retired, Mark, what's the approach to building a successful first book for a stallion of that quality?
Well, I suppose we start with our own internal mares. We'd go through our list of mares and see what would suit them and try and give them the best chance. And there's also other internals here that would be a big support of them, the likes of Aidan O'Brien and the O'Brien family themselves. And so we not that we set out a criteria like what Joe was saying, but you feel your way through it. And coming back to what you're saying about the commercial side of things, like you're actually nearly hoping that the mares that you get for the stallions, that the plan A is not to sell them. It is that they want to put them in training. You want to see them with John Gosden, or you want to see them in France with Francis Graffard or the likes of that. So that's the kind of thing. If you can get those owner breeders involved with a horse like that at that level, that's the first building block, because there's so many factors. I know I sound like it's a 1,000,000 to 1 chance, but to get the great horse with the good looks, to then go and get a good book of mares, then you have to get them to a good trainer, and then you just hope for the best after that. So we don't really try to, how would you say, set like a set guideline of what you need to breed a mare. But the other thing as well, you don't want to be covering old mares, 25, 24-year-old mares, and that's not going to really help your stallions. Well, one is going to block up the fertility path as well, but you don't need to be having too many of those old dolls either in the book.
Okay, I wouldn't be a big fan of the older mare myself. When you're thinking of what Mark talked about, and people, breeding to go to the race course, the opposite end of that is, something that there isn't an organisation that sells more horses than Castlebridge. When you think of a stallion that is a real sales stallion, a stallion that really gets a good-looking horse that the market loves, who comes to mind?
Straight off the bat, I think Siuni is that horse, sensational looking horse himself, huge presence, and he's obviously a fantastic stallion in his own right, but just time after time, good looking lumps of horses, good bone, good walk, he's sort of obviously pivotal line, everyone's caught onto the filly angle with him, but ultimately he's just a fantastic stallion. But time after time, you just get a beautiful looking horse. I mean, we sold a filly in book one for 350,000 this year, and then 2 days later, an identical filly walked into the same box and made 350 grand in book two by the same sire. She was just the spitting image of each other, bought both by two good judges, and that's the kind of horse that you want, is a horse that can produce a beautiful looking animal time after time. And pound for pound, I think Siuni does it. And I think he's one of those horses that you can kind of see in them, that you go around the sales, or one walks into the sales and one walks up on the rubber, and you have a look at them and go, I think that might be a Siuni. He's got that kind of the touch. They might have that little snip on the nose or something like that, but ultimately good looking, powerful horses. And yeah, he's a fantastic stallion. Maybe that's the secret to it.
Joe, you can't just be a good stallion overnight. Like even Siuni, he was 6-7 grand once upon a time. You have to build them up from that base. And a horse you're very heavily getting behind. I have one at home that's actually a cracker, to be honest. Lupi Fernandez. When you think about what is your methodology to supporting a stallion so that they can become the next showcasing for Whitby?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's no set formula, is there? As Mark alluded to, there's so many things that has to come right forward. As you said, yeah, we're really supporting Lope this year. Hopefully, we'll send them 25 mares this year, sent them 16 last year. The big thing is the breeders. Obviously the breeders and the mares getting the people on board from the early days. The support each year is critical. How many times have we seen good stallions who've, started off with a good book of mares? They might have not had the numbers second and third years, and then life becomes hard for them. After they don't have the numbers in years 2, 3 and 4. So I think consistent support is key really for the stallions. And that's why, for example, we're really heavy this year in support with Lope in year 2, and will be the same in the next 2 years again, to give them as strong as possible chance. But the breeders is key, isn't it? Having the right breeders on board, working with them and just getting the support in each year for the stallion is critical. And then, as Mark said, it all rolls around, and hopefully they all end up in the right homes to go to the sales, end up in good nurseries, end up in the right trainers in time. It really is. It's really a chain of events really that's needed for it all to fall right.
Yeah, you could be so unlucky. Like, you could have a unbelievable yearling, and it's not a bad thing. But you could have one of the best looking colts in the sale, and they end up going to Hong Kong, and obviously it's brilliant to get a horse out to Hong Kong. But if you've only a finite amount of number of horses to run for that stallion in your jurisdiction, it means that he's going to be gone for maybe 12 months and not be heard of. So you can see that happens quite a bit with and I saw it in book 1 with a stallion master, and it was from a first crop of a stallion, and he was hoping, I think John Gosden was the underbidder, and he was nearly hoping that they'd take back the last bid.
Yeah, okay, yeah, very, and you think of Havana Grey. The best foal by Havana Grey was arguably that 160,000 horse, but it was sold to Japan at the time, and you're kind of going, oh no, but actually come out and deliver it, right? So sometimes it works out anyway, So
no, exactly.
It's amazing
you need those flag bearers. Yeah, as Mark said, you need those flag bearers and to keep it all going. But it starts from day dot, doesn't it? When the horse comes in and getting the breeders on board and supporting the stallions and so on, it's crucial.
I'm going to come around just one last time and kind of ask everyone for a sire that perhaps we haven't mentioned tonight that you think warrants a mention for breeders that get stuck in behind. I'm also going to give myself a round of applause for not mentioning Far Above. To donate 50 quid to charity every time I do.
I thought you were going to say 50 stars.
Look, you mentioned him, so I didn't need to talk about these incredible stallions that are available to breeders nationwide. But Patrick, some people don't even, we can talk about stallions, but it all begins with a mare, a single mare, the first mare you ever buy. What's your advice to someone who actually wants to take that leap and buy their first mare? Yeah,
I think going into it sort of fully aware of everything that it entails.
What does it entail? Just give a quick sense of that.
And naturally, just the highs and lows of owning bloodstock. Where there's livestock, there's dead stock, I suppose. And it's a long game. And I think that if you're purchasing a mare for the first time, either be it a maiden, for an example, and a maiden mare, you're looking to buy a mare that you are going to live with for the next 4 or 5 years at least, to give herself that chance. And all that entails, ultimately, making money at the sales ring is important for commercial breeders, and they have to do it. But what makes a mare is good runners, and that's ultimately, good. She'll get so far with good sales results. She'll put money in your bank account, but ultimately to go and make that mare that, of the mare of a lifetime for you or anything like that, ultimately will come down to how her stock perform on the track eventually. I think on that basis, though, you want to be with a mare that can produce you a good-looking animal. So you can try to do the two, really. The physical is hugely important, but I think it all comes down to pedigree, as a starting point. That's where I would certainly look. I think you can wipe out a lot of what you're going to look at in a catalogue with pedigree. I think you can certainly limit what you look like, and then you can move on to the physicals after that. But you want a mare that's come from a family that has a history of producing winners, good winners, black type horses, and because quite often it just comes back to it time and time again. You get those freaks that are outliers that, mightn't have produced a black type horse for 2 generations, 3 generations, but they're few and far between. Ultimately, those good families keep coming back to good families. And at different price points, that will make sense in your caveat, and you have to forgo certain areas. it's all about give and take. You want to tick as many boxes as possible, but ultimately that will be determined by what price range that you can go into. But in the sense that you are married to that mare for a period of time, and to give her the best chance, you're also going to have to put covers in that make sense for her at that time. You're going to put a lot of work and a lot of investment in there, so make sure you do it right and be prepared to do it for the long haul to give her every chance.
So we found this elusive mare. We've rang up Mark on his mobile and we said, Mark, give me a minute. I was telling you didn't mention on the show. Didn't even take the radar of everyone. Someone that's a little bit of a perhaps a hidden gem. Well, who do you point towards?
So yeah, you're trying to breed a winner with your one mare. I suppose you're going to be looking for, obviously, I'm saying you're going to go proven anyway straight away. You've a couple of options that you want. I suppose I'd like, as I said, I like those kind of more 7 furlong type horses. But yeah, it's a good question. I suppose you're trying to get to the sales ring. You're trying to do everything. You've one mare. Something like Sioux Nation, perhaps. Sioux Nation, if that's your budget, would be a horse that he's going to get you 2-year-old. They sell well. And
as well. He's a lovely horse.
He's a lovely horse, and his 3-year-olds are going to be only starting to run now. He's had a listed winner over a mile already, so you're going to hope that they're going to get better and better with age. They're very big horses generally, so they should be getting better with age. But he's probably the one there for your mare. Just come back to what Paddy said. Like it's so true. Like it's all down to budget. When you're trying to buy a mare, I find it's like. Yeah, you have to forgive certain bits and pieces here and there, but it's actually very interesting when you talk to loads of different breeders how they have completely different criteria on what they look for in a mare. Some of them look for big pages out of unraced mares, other ones look for runners and forgive. Some of them like obscure stallions that were runners, some of them love proper stallions that were bad. So I think it's just whatever works for you within your budget and trying to buy the best that you can, because inevitably, as I was reading today, Johnny Collins and TDN, like you have to look at them for the rest of the year. Yeah. So yeah, you live with them then after that. So try not to make too many mistakes in the way in, and hope for the best after that.
Yeah, and in Johnny Collins' effort, have the stores to bail you out.
Yeah. So we one mare. We're a long way from stores,
game, baby. Yeah. So we've been buy a rake of stores was the take-home message I took from that actually. But if we don't embark upon that and we still decide to stay here with a bit of value on the flat, Joe, was there any horse there you felt didn't get the mention you think they deserve?
I think we've kind of touched on a lot of them now. One is probably what we're mentioning. I know he's probably in his latter years now at this stage, is Ifraj. This year at £15,000 he stands in England. Standing over here, I think tried, tested, proven, fantastic sire, turned into fantastic broodmare sire. Obviously, Wooden Bastard flying a flag, again, he's a horse who's spot on for a job like that, isn't he? I know obviously he's latter now and so on, but look, you can't take away what he's achieved over the years. Yeah,
I'd echo that. Paddy, last word to you. Who do you think we should be giving a little mention to?
I think to get a mare started, I like the proven angle. A horse that is probably gaining popularity again, in sort of that goes in ups and downs. Nathaniel is a horse there that he's done very, very little wrong. I know that it's a certain niche. You're probably more likely to produce a 10 furlong horse and everything like that. But ultimately, pound for pound, stakes winners to runners, black type horses in total. Still very commercial. At the price. In a sales ring with the right kind of mare, I think he's gone and done it time and time again, and proven that he can actually get you a superstar as well, which is every small breeder's dream, I suppose, isn't it? That you're clinging on to, a winner, but with a chance that you could produce that superstar.
Okay, there we have it. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for your time this evening. Hopefully, breeders far and wide got a lot out of that. All three gentlemen are on Twitter. If you want to drop them a message. You can.
So Jack, sorry, before we go, Blue Point's your money, is it?
Yeah. I will officially put my. I think Blue Point, and I'll pick Bassar to be the sire that kind of kicks on from the crop, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the sire will be the one that we all like.
You're staying away from hype, Jack. You're going for the good sensible play.
Yeah, we're still going for sensible play. I like Soldier's Call. I could imagine being very forward. So could I see 10 Sovereigns being forward. But I think it's a great crop, right? I think that's unmistakable. I think Blue Point will be champion first in Star. That's what that's where my money's going.
I'm a star for tomorrow.
And you know, sorry,
I'm a star for tomorrow. Victor we talked about last time.
Exactly. Yeah, Massaro. I think Invincible Army is going to be very interesting to see how he goes as well, right? Like he's a very tough, tenacious horse. Invincible Spirit has that track record of producing sires of sires. You know, I think he's going to have to be in the mixer too. But let's see. You know, you never know what way this game's going to pan out. You know,
no, I'm looking at it here. Like,
you know, it's amazing. Raja Singh, like last year, everyone would have dismissed him. But actually, if you look at his sires to runners, I think he deserves a mention. You know, of a sire that has done very well, and it's a testament to Phil Cunningham and people believing in a sire that other people have dismissed. So you can never write them off, and you can always think there's a bit of value. I think in terms of generally, I agree with a lot of the panel. Coolsey, Cottai Glory, Cody Bear, they'd all jump out as great value. A horse that I think we haven't mentioned that deserves a mention is Teofilio. Yeah. You know, the amazing record he has is kind of underappreciated greatly by the public. It could be a little bit tricky to get a mare in foal to him, but if you do, or you see a mare in foal at the sales in foal to him, I'd highly recommend taking a second look, because he's a proper stallion by a proper sires in Galileo. So I think
absolutely agree with that. He's phenomenal.
We missed off along the way.
I think he's probably one of the highest sort of most Group 1 winners of active stallions now, or something ridiculous.
He said, what does he stand for? 30 grand. He might end up with as many Group 1 winners as what grand he stands for at the moment, right? And that's kind of, there's a lot of very flashy stars that haven't got that record behind them. So I think he deserves a mention.
Good Bruder sire too.
Yeah, for our French friends, I think Galloway is interesting. Zelzal will be interesting to see how he goes this year. Zarak has gone up in price, but could become another elite stallion for the team. And then maybe and we haven't had a chance to touch upon National Hunt, but there is a lot of interesting sires emerging there, and it's going to be very fascinating. We might need to do a separate episode going through all them, and maybe, I hate to say it, but maybe not with this panel. We might need to. We might need to get new jockeys, I imagine. But thanks very much, gentlemen, and we will chat soon.
Thanks a million, Jack.
Cheers, Jack.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that chat with Paddy, with Joe, with Mark. Lots of different stallions whirled around there, but some great insights, and hopefully the start of a great season of Art of the Mating. If you have topic ideas, please tweet me at Jack Cantillon. If you have your own mare and you'd like free mating advice, just send a message to me at Jack Cantillon, and I'd happily do. We already have a Twitter thread, which I'm responding to all the mares in turn with some mating advice. And the guys, Paddy, Mark, and Joe, would be happy to help you also. If you want to reach out to one of them, as I said, please do. We will be back hopefully next week, maybe the week after, with our next episode. So if you'd like to catch it first, you can subscribe to our mailing list, the priority list at Syndicates.Racing, or even better, you can hit that subscribe button below and really back us to the hilt as we grow people's interest in bloodstock and the great sport of horse racing. Until next time, thanks very much.